Hi, I'm Steve Evans, and my passion is to bring you the best tips and tricks to support your writing needs. In this video, I'm going to be talking about beating writer's block. Okay, so you're sat at your writing place. You're really comfortable with no distractions. You're poised with pen, ready to write, or you're keyed up by the keyboard, raring to type. Then, disaster. Your mind goes blank, and now your blank page or screen looks like an Arctic snowstorm. Don't panic, we've all been there, and we've got 10 tried and trusted tips that will get you writing straight away. Sometimes filling that void, that blank space, can seem pretty daunting. However, when you're at that initial stage, the booster rocket stage of your writing, there are many ways and tips and tricks to give you lift off. Fortunately, there are many different ways to beat writer's block, so here goes. My first tip is don't start cold. You should have, before you write, an idea about what you're going to write about. Even if it's only a rough idea, an outline will save you time. If it's the actual process of writing a few words down or a sentence or two down that's preventing you from starting and kick-starting that writing on the page, what I would recommend is that you imagine that you're telling your story to a close friend. So you're relating the story to somebody you trust and somebody whose opinion you value and you feel comfortable relating that story to. Another spin on this is to pretend that you're writing to someone you know. So try both approaches and see which one works best for you. Tip 2 is to reverse engineer your writing. This works if you know already how your story ends, or you have a rough idea how it's going to end, or if you already have the takeaway points for a report that you're writing. Start by writing the ending or the takeaway points first. These can be in bullet points or full sentences, and now they're on the page. Work backwards. Start writing your middle section on how you reached your conclusions or what developed in the middle of your story that led you to the ending that you've created. Keep using this process and moving backwards in your narrative so that the last section you write is your introduction. If it's a story, your introduction will likely involve setting the scene, introducing the characters, setting up the situation. If you're writing something factual, like a report or a dissertation, then you'll be using the introduction to provide context to the issue your paper seeks to explore or address. Tip 3 is to use your notebook or journal entries as prompts. So lift some of the sentences from these entries and use these to start your writing. Now continue to write using those sentences and use them as your springboard. If you want more information on journal and notebook keeping, then check out our earlier video and don't forget to download our activity sheets. Advanced planning. When you're writing reports, dissertations, etc., when you're going to be making many points, advanced planning really helps. This also applies to fiction writing. If you, for example, have a clear idea what you want to write about, do some advanced planning. It's going to save you a lot of time. Everyone plans differently, but mind maps are a great way of planning and structuring your writing. If you're writing a story, a simple storyboard is really useful, and it doesn't have to be a work of art and you don't have to be an artist. Simple matchstick people will do, because what the storyboard is basically there for is to create a frame for your writing and give your writing some structure. So that's really important for planning and advanced planning, and will save you, as I said before, lots of valuable time. If you're writing poetry, then most likely you already have some lines written in a notebook. So it's simply transferring those lines onto a larger writing pad or onto the computer. However, if you're still stuck for some ideas, and this doesn't just apply to poetry but to story writing in general, there are some really good word association strategies which may help you. One strategy involving word association, something you can try, is just to pick up a book. So just choose any book that's closest to you. I'm using my book of poetry, my anthology, as an example. And all you have to do is to open the page at any page and just select the first word at the top of that page. So repeat that 3 times, and from those 3 words make a connection in your mind. Write those down on your pad or type them, and then see how you can make a link and association between those 3 words to kickstart your writing and beat that blank page. So for example, winter, bubble, forever. Winter, bubble, forever. Forever, winter, bubble. Winter, bubble, forever. So I'm going to work on those 3 words, and from them I can devise a short story or a poem. Another word association game or strategy I use is to take a title from a song and use it as a prompt to write something totally different from that song. For example, base a short story on the title. So I also add 2 titles, so I take titles from 2 different songs, merge them together and use them to kickstart an idea and part of the writing process. For example, Pretty Woman and Blue Monday. Pretty Woman, Blue Monday. Blue Monday, Pretty Woman. Or Both Ends Burning, Revolver. Or Revolver, Both Ends Burning. So the combinations are endless, but what it should be able to do is to kickstart a couple of ideas and help you beat writer's block and beat that blank page. Another strategy is, before you start writing, play some music. Close your eyes, listen to the music, and consider what thoughts and feelings the music is evoking in you. Where is that music leading you to? What memories are emerging from that music. And with that music still playing, open your eyes and start writing. Start writing and keep writing. For more tips on how to use music as an active writing tool, check out our previous video. Tip 6 is to go old school. So if staring at the screen is daunting, making you feel that writing is daunting, just forget writing and typing away for the time being. Just grab a pen, a pad, and just the feel of the pen and your hand brushing against the paper. It's just a sensuous way to sharpen your writing focus. Even if you just start by doodling on that pad, you'll find it calming. And before you realise it, those doodles will turn into words, and those words will turn into sentences. Just do some free writing. Just write for 3 to 5 minutes, non-stop. Get down all your thoughts, all your feelings down on the page. Just roll with it. Be in the moment and just keep writing. It's amazing what you'll write in 5 minutes. Okay, now you've got something that you can work with and build on. So now return to the computer, and as you are transferring what you've written onto the screen, you can begin the process of rewriting it and editing it. The next tip is to use images. Choose a photograph or an image of a scene, for example, a landscape, and begin to describe it to someone who can't see it. Describe where it is, when is the season or the year. Then place characters in that scene. Who are they? Why are they there? Or find a photograph of a person or people and describe them again to your friend. At first, stick to pure description, just the factual side of things. What do they look like? Their age, hair and eye colour, any distinguishing facial features. Now let your imagination kick in. Invent a story about them. Their name, hobbies, are they employed or not? If so, what do they do? Are they married? Separated? Stick to describing two people, no more, and describe their relationship to one another. Tip 8 is checking the news. So the news can be a great source for ideas for stories, because you'll find, and you probably already know this, that fact is often stranger than fiction and can be just as dramatic. So what I would recommend is that you read an online newspaper or listen to the radio. I wouldn't recommend, unless it's absolutely necessary, watching the news. I would tend instead just to concentrate on words, whether it's the spoken word or the written word, and then start to develop that story. Start to use the story as a foundation, but then create your own story from it. Stick to the facts of the story at first, and then begin to riff with it. Go off at tangents, create a standalone story. So I would tend to take that story from the news and then see that story as the middle of a story. And then I would like to think of the beginning to that story and the end to that story. So if it's the beginning, I'd probably then think about what gave rise to the events in the middle and how's it going to end. Another way to beat the block is to consider your mindset and to see writing as something intrinsically fun and not a chore. When you set out to write, be excited that you're writing, because writing is amazing, that you are going to create something that has never existed before. And also think positively, and remember that the more you write, the more you will improve. Also see the process of proofing and editing as fun. So for example, if you have to write an article or a blog or a funding bid where word count is really important, you're going to be starting with, for example, 500 words, and then you're going to apply précis, and you're going to hone those words, you're going to whittle away at your sentences until you're left with a word count of 200 to 250 words that represent the pure essence of your thoughts, your ideas. And when you hit your word count, you'll have an amazing sense of achievement. And my final tip is to be realistic about your writing. Like most other writers, your writing isn't going to be perfect in first draft or two. Don't add any extra pressure to your writing. Remove all that anxiety. Remember that you're not looking for great writing straight away. That's going to come later on in the revision and editing process as you proof your work, and you're going to go through at least several drafts in that process. So at the moment, all you should be concerned about is not the finished product. So when you start writing, just be concerned with getting all your great thoughts, ideas and your feelings down on the screen or on paper. Then you can take it from there. Just congratulate yourself that you've beaten the block, that you've really succeeded in getting something down to start building upon. When I teach writing, the people who attend my courses often tell me that they feel despondent, they feel down because they have drafted their work once or twice and they still don't see any improvement or any finished product. And I show attendees this. This is a poem by Wilfred Owen, a poet we associate with the First World War. And it's a poem that's often taught in schools in the UK, and a poem that perhaps you're already familiar with. But look at this. These are all the changes, amendments and revisions that Wilfred Owen undertook before he was fully satisfied with the poem. So don't feel disheartened, because proofreading, revising and editing is all part of writing, and it's something that all writers experience, and your work may have to go through a dozen or so alterations and amendments before you feel that you're really happy with it and that you've got on paper your thoughts and feelings that you wish to communicate to other people or to yourself. And as I said in the earlier tip, the process of editing and revision will improve your writing as part of the writing experience. And the editing process is really good for your mental faculties, so it's a bonus, and just see it as a game, as a challenge. Sometimes just getting your thoughts down on paper is an achievement. Once it's down on paper, once it's on the screen, then you can start rewriting and editing until you've honed your writing to something that you're happy with. I use many different methods to kickstart my writing and beat the writer's block. What works for me is usually being prepared, having my ideas down in some type of structure, usually bullet points, and then I build and expand from those bullet points. I also use my journal and notebook entries. I take sentences or phrases from those entries and I write them on the pad or on the screen, and I then see if I can develop those words or sentences into something more sustainable, a longer piece of writing. So, what's stopping you? Try some of these tips and tricks and see what works for you and start writing today. How do you deal with writer's block? I'd like to know. Please share any tips with me by dropping me a comment. If you like these videos, please subscribe. Push the like button and the bell so we can keep providing the content. And don't forget to download our free writing resources and also to visit our website for more tricks and tips. I hope you like them, and if you do like them, drop me a comment. I've also placed links to my book, which is on Amazon UK and Amazon USA. Until next time, write well.